Today on the Journey Mindfulness podcast, we are honored to welcome Dr. Yafi Yair, clinical psychologist, channel, and spiritual teacher, whose unique path bridges science and spirit. With decades of experience in the healing arts, Dr. Yaffe has become a powerful conduit for transformative energies, including messages from the divine feminine Hathor, Viola the fairy, and earth elements, as well as extra dimensional intelligences. Through her work, she guides individuals into deeper alignment with their soul's purpose, offering transmissions that awaken remembrance, healing, and multidimensional wisdom. This conversation is an invitation to explore consciousness beyond the veil, to open the heart, and to attune to the sacred frequencies that guide us home. Let's dive in. Dr. Yaffe, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, James. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Dr. Yaffe, how did your channeling journey begin?
Yeah, so my channeling journey is a part of my bigger intuitive journey, which is a part of my spiritual journey as a person that then began intertwining with my professional journey. So for me, my personal and professional journey are one of the same. And approximately, I would say 13 years ago, I went full in diving into developing my intuition and exploring psychic reality and spiritual reality and energetic realities. And that really opened me up psychically. And I began going deeper and deeper into this world, which led me eventually to channeling. First, it led me to hypnosis through my clinical work, and eventually to channeling, which has been, I would say, the main focus of my spiritual journey in the past approximately 4 years.
Okay. Was there an event that triggered the spiritual journey, or what? Because you had this clinical side of you, this education piece, and then you opened up to this other realm of, which is super fascinating. But what was the trigger for that?
I think there were a lot of triggers that happened at the same time. You know how life works in synchronicities, and the universe diverts you in certain directions. So a lot of things happen at the same time. I discovered hypnosis first through the clinical world, then Brian Weiss, but it kind of happened within the same year. So I discovered hypnosis and then spiritual hypnosis, past life regression in 1 year. At that same year, I discovered Coast to Coast AM, which is an overnight radio show that covers the paranormal and spiritual.
Yeah.
So that opened all these curiosity doors for me, mediumship and everything that they cover on the show. And at the same time, within the same year, my mom very rapidly crossed over, basically, and it happened very, very fast. She went from being a healthy, typical 63-year-old to dying, crossed over in 2 months. At the same time, I was getting married. So you cannot even imagine more changes happening in my life in this 1 year, 2012. And all these different events happening one after the other really, really pushed me in my spiritual journey. Now, what's interesting is that my interest in paranormal and spirituality peaked a few months before the big life events changes happened. So there was some kind of a preparation by the universe, by my higher self. And then again, losing my mom in the physical really propelled me to dive into spirituality in a more urgent and more practical way, because it wasn't just theoretical at this point. It was my life, and I needed that validation that spirit is real, that we are more than the physical body, that can be proven in a way, although proof is a tricky word here, but that can be validated, that can be experienced, at least proven on a personal level. So if you have a spirit encounter, maybe scientifically it's not a proof, but for you as a person, it can be the proof that you need to make that leap of faith.
Yeah, unless something happens to you, it's hard to explain it to someone, even if they believe you. It's
Mm-hmm.
different, but it is a proof
Absolutely.
nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
What was the maybe validation for you that convinced you of
Yes.
the other side?
So the first few signs were also through my mom. So I started receiving visitations from her. The first one was, from my recollection, well, it's really complex, but yeah. So the first one, from my recollection, was through a dream. I went to sleep that night, really, really missing my mom. It was approximately 1 month after she transitioned to the other side. And at that point, I felt the connection even earlier. After about a week of her crossing over, I felt the connection kind of fading in the more physical way. So about a month afterwards, I was going to sleep telling her, Mom, I miss you so much. Even if you exist in the spirit, I miss you in the physical. I want to hug you. And that night, early in the morning, I had a dream of being back in Israel, where I grew up, where my mom lived. And all of a sudden, the dream paused. And out of the dream, like the dream went dark, everything was dark, this illuminated figure began walking towards me. And I'm like straining my eyes to see. So it's no longer a dream. All of a sudden, I'm me, and the dream paused. So it became really more than a lucid dream. It became an astral visitation because the dream was paused, everything went black. I am me, I'm lucid all of a sudden, and this image comes towards me and it's illuminated. And I squint my eyes to see, and I'm like, I swear it's Mom. So I said, Mom, is this you? And I get back kind of a telepathic, joking response. What, you don't recognize me? And she continued moving towards me until she was standing in front of me. Although I only remember seeing her upper body, maybe chest and up. I don't remember her full body. But she stopped right in front of me and we hugged. And when we hugged, I felt her bones. I felt her shoulders. It was so visceral and so physical. And I just held her close. And then I knew it was time to let go. Again, it was all telepathic, so there was no concrete words. And
Yeah.
I let go of the hug, and she receded back to the background. And all of a sudden, as if somebody pressed play, the dream continued. That scene was finished, and the dream continued. And when the dream ended, the dream wrapped up, I was brought back. So I guess I stayed lucid within your dream once the visitation ended. And then I was brought back to my body. And what I noticed, and that has been consistent since then, when I'm being brought back to my body at the end of a visitation, usually overnight in the form of a dream, there is no falling back asleep and waking up. There is the visitation, and then there's like a feather falling on the ground, gently merging back with the body, and then I can open my eyes. But the consciousness stays throughout. There's no disconnection of falling asleep, waking back up.
Wow. That's
And
very powerful.
And at the same time, I had external validations. So maybe a few days later, I don't remember, I went to sleep. And at this point, I was reading a book about mediumship and I wanted a concrete sign. I said, Mom, the book said two things that were interesting. One, make an appointment for a sign. Don't say, I want a sign now. Make an appointment. The other thing, they said, spirit, it's easier for them to work with electrical stuff rather than physical signs. And if, for example, it's a mother or a grandmother that you associate them with the kitchen, for example, ask for a sign in the kitchen, make it relevant, make it appropriate. I'm like, okay, I love that. So I closed the book. I made a request to my mom. I read at night in bed, so I was already in that space. I make a request to my mom, Mom, tomorrow, we usually make breakfast around 11 a.m. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the kitchen, I want a sign, something electrical at 11 a.m. This is the appointment we're making. You can do it, Mom. And I went to sleep. The following day, I wake up, I go on my day, I forget about it. I'm in the kitchen making breakfast. Thankfully, I was right about the time, around 11. I make breakfast in the kitchen. I begin to prepare, and all of a sudden, the microwave turns itself on and begins to spin with the light on. Nothing is in there, nothing was pressed. I'm not even standing next to it. And I'm like, what's going on with the microwave? And I'm trying to stop it. I'm pressing and it won't stop. It's going on and on. And I called to my husband, I'm like, John, come downstairs. The microwave is going crazy. And he's trying to stop it. Eventually, we unplugged it. And only after we unplugged it, it stopped. And only then I'm like, oh my goodness,
Oh,
look at the time. It's 11:05. Mom was right on time. I made the appointment and I asked for a sign, something electric. And here we go. It happened. And I think John said at this point, if it's really, he was like, this is incredible. I wonder if it can happen again. We plug in the microwave and it starts by itself again. And again, no way of stopping it other than unplugging. It never
yeah.
happened before, of course. It never happened since. Our microwave is a completely normally functioning microwave, except for that morning when mom turned it on twice and gave us a sign that's very external and very in the physical.
Yeah.
So, which validates also the dream experience. So it's like these different layers and different directions of validations that together form over time, really, as proof, as reinforcement that how real this reality, the spiritual, energetic reality is.
Yeah, it's so, I hope for people listening, I hope it's comforting, but that you can, I mean, I've had my own experiences where you can't, once it happens to you, it's just this, wow, you can communicate with the other side. Like it's not, elusive. It's not hidden from you. It's there and you can
Mhm.
interact with it. It's quite fascinating.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the more you open to it, the more it flows naturally. So there's something, it's not like you cannot get signs if you're an agnostic. I would say believer is a little tricky because then you don't notice signs. If you're really completely closed to the idea that it's possible, you will not even notice or see things. If you're on the fence, it's okay. Some things will come to you, some things you'll notice, some things you won't. And over time, you can become more and more of a believer. But once you made that leap, once you made peace between the left and right side of the brain, so the critical and the judgmental can accept the magical, then you're open to this abundance of signs and communications from everything around us. Yes, loved ones that were crossed over, but not only, literally everything around us communicates with us in a very fluid and conscious way. So as we evolve on our spiritual journey, we slowly expand our understanding of what can communicate back to us and what does it mean that everything is alive, everything is conscious. So at first we think about past loved ones, then we think about other spirits, maybe spirit guides, maybe guardian angels, maybe angels. But what about animals, birds, right? What
Yeah.
about crystals? What about the elements? Water. Can water communicate to us? What about anything that exists? How about AI? Our computers. Can our computers communicate with us? So you begin expanding and expanding and expanding your questions of
Yes.
what really things mean, both theoretically and also in a practical day-to-day way.
You opened up so much there.
I know, I didn't even let you speak. I was just adding and adding and adding.
I love it. It's okay. I really want people, well, I want to inspire people and give them hope about life now. I was just outside grounding and which I want to talk more with you about grounding. But just listening to the birds singing and, you have a book, Conversations with the Earth, and just how, the singing of the birds can be grounding and just sort of
Mhm.
the magic that happens with that. And it was so delightful. But the earth, everything is speaking to us if we listen.
Yes, the earth is alive. Elements within the earth is alive. Birds have both consciousness, it's kind of collective to birds, but they can also individuate. Individual birds can carry individual messages. They also interact with spirit, so you can say that spirit interacts with them. so they can be carrier of messages for us. Like people receive feathers. I receive full birds. that
Yeah.
yes, that come and go as response to my requests and my communication, and provide validations when I'm asking for signs or when I just need that validation from the environment. It often comes in form of birds and generally different nature manifestations.
Yeah, my partner was just telling me she was talking about the magic of life with her children, and a hawk flew past the car like as that was happening. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
"What does it mean? What does it mean?" I'm like, "I don't know. The hawk there's a significance to it, but
Mm-hmm.
what was happening in that moment?" But that communication, that spirit communication, definitely happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and often it's not about a specific message. So I know people really like, I saw a beetle, what does a beetle mean? I saw a hawk, what does a hawk mean? And they do have archetypal and symbolic meanings. But a lot of time, if you get stuck on searching for the meaning, you miss the essence of the message. And often the essence of the message is a type of hello, a type of greeting, a type of validation, a type of strengthening of whatever, like you said, was happening at that moment. So
Mm,
it's not always important. And I would say it's most of the time not very important to go beyond that general validation and the realization of how fluid reality is, our inner and our outer world. So whether you're talking about something or just thinking about something, the more you are in the flow, the more whatever you're thinking about or talking about is going to manifest in your environment. And if you're very, very, very much in the flow, you know how we have moments of peak energetically? So
yeah.
we're like really vibing. Then synchronicities can be incredibly fast. I can give you a tiny example. Yesterday or the day before, I had one of those. I had a few days of really heightened flow. And the level of synchronicities was so intense that it was moment to moment. I would talk about a person named David, and something not related, a different David would come up on TV. I would literally just say the word water, and all of a sudden something with water would happen. I mean, it was just moment to moment, so quick. And
Yeah.
you can ask, oh, what's the meaning of water? Who is David? Or you can just kind of feel the bigger picture of being in the flow and how everything becomes fluid on the spectrum of internal reality versus external reality, and that idea of signs or manifestation into the physical.
Well, I mean, flow states are the pinnacle of existence, right? Like that's like the one wonderful state to be in. But it's interesting to hear you articulate that. Like when you're in flow, your mind or your energy is sort of interacting or having this play unfolding in the moment, moment by
Mm-hmm.
moment, and all of these things are just taking place. Um, Really to kind of highlight maybe that we are spiritual creator beings. And in the
Absolutely.
example that you
Powerful,
gave,
powerful spiritual
yes,
creator beings.
absolutely. And I know that that's something that you teach about is just that we're far more powerful than we realize. And we don't often recognize that, which I think is helpful to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we often give our power to something else. Even when we talk about signs from spirit, we tend to think about it as something external of us rather than a continuum of our own beingness, which is
Mm,
what I feel that is happening.
yeah. Well, it's at some point, and this is, I would imagine, part of what you teach, right? That empowerment, like taking your power back and then starting to integrate it into your life to remember who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also do a lot of clearing work. And the importance of that is because we're such powerful co-creators and such strong manifestors, when we're very unclear, when we have a lot of distractions, emotional, cognitive, we manifest a mess, right? So we manifest what we want, what we vocally and say, yes, we want to manifest this, but there are also doubts and emotions and all, like I said, all these distractions. And when we work on becoming clearer, then we're much more focused in the way and the speed in which we manifest. So doing a lot of clearing work is really, really helpful in terms of stepping into your own power, because you really see very directly how things start manifesting faster and more in line with what feels right.
I can hear everyone in my own voice saying, okay, how do I clear so I can get more clarity? What are some of the best practices that you use to clear that, to gain that
Mhm.
clarity?
So I would say the one-on-one 101 for like everything: knowing yourself, achieving clarity, improving your focus, improving your intuition, improving your spiritual connection, is meditation. So the one, if I really had to pick only one thing, I would recommend everybody to start meditating. If they don't have a meditation practice and they want to start with 5 minutes a day, fine, 5 minutes a day. I suggest, honestly, using binaural beats or some kind of I love the Monroe Institute and their technology, but some kind of an audio technology that can help you reach a deeper level of meditation and maintain it. So that to me is better than doing 5 minutes a day, because with that, you can easily go 20, 30 minutes a day, an hour a day. So doing something like this and just developing a practice, I think can improve practically everything in your life, but you do have to be persistent. And that's also where music or having some kind of a track really, really helps with having that structure and motivation to keep on going.
You mentioned the Monroe Institute and HemiSync. Is there a recommended, like, do you have a particular flavor of, say, frequency or range of like theta, delta that you recommend or use, or is it just preference?
Um, well, really to reach a nice deep level of meditation or trance, if you're talking about hypnosis, you want to activate the whole brain, which means both hemispheres, both sides of the brain. And when it was measured to see what types of frequencies the brain emits, what was discovered that it's not just one frequency. So it's not really like we're thinking, okay, we're in slight meditation, that's alpha brain waves, that's it. Now I'm in alpha brain waves. What we discovered that when we map the brain during those peak experiences, during those deep meditation, that there's a pretty nice, beautiful symmetry, not only between the hemispheres, but also the different frequencies that are being emitted. So alpha, theta, even delta, they're all active, with alpha and theta being the most prominent, and beta and delta being it's almost like a circle. So they're on the top, they're a little less, but it's really nice and symmetrical. And that's without addressing gamma, which at the time of the study could not be mapped
Ah, okay.
because they resonate higher than the instrumentation could have detected at that time.
Now, is gamma the range that you're in when you're channeling?
That is some of the hypothesis, yes.
Okay. Okay.
That not only channeling, so healers, energy healers, the really, really talented ones, they can reach really advanced states of healing. And channelers, it says that yes, that they are tapping into gamma frequencies of extremely high frequencies, extremely, extremely high.
Okay. Excellent. Um, okay. So you have these experiences in your life. You start your channeling journey. Was this studying with Lisa Royal Holt, or when did you decide, hey, I want to focus on this?
Yes, exactly. So I channeled before Lisa Royal Holt, and I thought it was okay. It was interesting. I preferred the regular reading because I would get validation and confirmation very quickly from clients. So I like that much more. It fit better with my still left brain, growing right brain.
Hmm.
And then about 5 years ago, I learned about Lisa Royal Holt. I never heard the name before. I was never particularly interested in channeling before, but she was recommended to me by a couple of people that didn't know each other. And the first time I heard her name was a person that recommended her. And he said, well, if you're looking for someone who is really a real channeler, that's her. I'm like, oh, interesting. So I wrote down the name. And of course, maybe 2 weeks later, somebody else mentioned her name. And all of a sudden she pops up on my computer. And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I looked into her and I discovered that she was not only a channeler, but she teaches. And she was going to start another channeling training, which she didn't do regularly anymore at that time. And COVID just happened. So everything shut down. So it was going to be on Zoom. And she didn't even have an open space for anyone. But I knew it was going to happen. So as soon as I discovered all of it, I wrote her an email. And of course, she said, oh my God, your timing is just unbelievable. I was just going to blah, 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 blah. Bottom line, I made it to the class, even though she didn't have an opening.
Yes.
And and for me, it was enrichment. I didn't know it was going to be the next big focus of my life. I just knew this is really interesting. It suits with what I'm doing. Her style is very down to earth. It's all about inner clarity, a little bit of what we mentioned before, being clear, doing that inner work, learning to be a clear channel. Like that really aligns with the way I feel about things. So I took the training, and it was a long form training. So we're talking months and months and months. And there was all these daily practice, and I dove in. I practiced hours a day, not channeling for hours, but body work, breath work, meditation. Yes, channeling practice, all these different things. And I did this for 6 to 9 months daily as a part of the training. And when the training ended, I just continued. It just became a part of my life and I never stopped. So during the training, I would channel 3 to 5 times a week. Slowly, it went down to once or twice a week. And also the channelings became longer. So now I channel publicly once a week, but it's for a much longer time than I did at the beginning, 5 times a week, but they were much shorter. So it changed as my journey progressed, but I never stopped channeling from that training. It became my main thing, and I continued going full force and growing with the process and the journey, as it is a true mind expanding journey.
Yeah. And for those listening too, I just want to point out, like you had this closed door, in front of you, like, oh, there's no room. But your excitement led you to just try it anyway, right? This non-attachment to the
Mhm.
outcome, and all of a sudden it opened up. So a lot of times I see people and I'm like, just give it a shot. Who knows if they say no, they say no, but give it a shot. You never know where it's gonna go. And
Mhm.
here you got in and you dove in passionately. And at some point, did you know that that was a calling for you, or when did you realize that? I mean, clearly you had the effort you were putting into it.
I think I realized as soon as I realized how much more easily and naturally it comes to me than to most people. So even within the context of the class, we were maybe 20 people. I really don't remember how many people we were. And we were all training to become channelers, or at least to channel. Not everybody has the intention of making it a profession, but everybody that was there wanted to become a proficient at channeling. And yet, when it was time to channel for the first time and we were done with the practicing hugging the practice of channeling and actually channeled for the first time, the instruction was, and you can find it in my book, I talk about it in the introduction of the book. The instruction from Lisa at that time, right? It's the first time we're channeling in this group. And if you don't feel like you know how to channel, pretend. And I'm like, okay, that sounds easy. If I don't know, I'll just pretend. Because, it's practice. It's not like I'm not with clients or anything. I'm like, all right, that's easy enough. So I'm closing my eyes, I'm following the instructions, I have my inner invocation, and then I just start talking because it was play, right? If you don't know to channel, just pretend. What could be easier than that? So I really just followed the instructions and I went along, and it felt real, but who knows, especially the first few times. And I noticed that not only the people around me were shocked about the information that came through, everybody was like, oh my God. And I'm like, I don't understand what's the big deal. That's what we're doing here, right? Like it kind of didn't click. So not only everybody else were so up and up about whatever is coming through, and the fact that my voice changed when it was their turn, it wasn't that fluid, it wasn't easy. They were self-doubting, they didn't want to start speaking, they didn't know if they were getting something or not, and whatever else came up for other people. And for me, it just felt very natural, extremely natural, just a natural progression of my consciousness. Yeah. So now I say my invocation and I wait to feel that flow coming. And then when it comes, I express it. And there we go. I had to see the comparison to how it is for other people to realize that this is really what I'm meant to be doing. It feels right. It feels well in terms of like harmonious, it
Yeah.
feels whole and well and grounded and energetic. And at the same time, people are really feeling it. And it continues all the life work that I've built beforehand as a psychologist, as an intuitive reader, counselor. It kind of bring everything together. My work at the Monroe Institute. I've been going to the Monroe Institute at that point for maybe 9 years, building my control over different levels of consciousness and different dimensions. And it really seemed like all of that led me to this path of channeling and being in that space.
Mm. Okay. So you had some training, like I don't know if it was the gateway process, but just with the Monroe Institute prior to that.
Yes. So the first time I went to the Monroe Institute, I believe, was in 2012, possibly in 2013. That was when I did the Gateway program.
Okay.
And since then, I've done maybe 12 more programs. I'm not completely sure about the number, but I've done many Monroe programs, almost always residential. I only did one online. It wasn't really my thing. I prefer to go there and be there in person.
Yeah.
But going to the Monroe Institute has been a significant aspect of my spiritual journey, both in terms of my personal development, but also being able to connect to my intuition in such a fluid way, bringing it to the surface. And again, I mentioned the word fluid a lot because our consciousness it's all on a spectrum. We tend to divide things, and you can divide things, but the division is just to make it clear for our human mind. It's really all on a spectrum. And the more we learn to go through the spectrum, to travel through it more fluidly, the more we can expand our own range.
Mm. Yeah, I guess, people get caught up in like what, dimension, but there's, I don't know, extra dimensional, trans-dimensional, you can come in
Mm-hmm.
and out of things. Very interesting. Okay, so you have this new book on the
Yes.
divine feminine Hathor.
Yes.
How does the divine feminine play into this planetary awakening? And how can we attune more deeply to that?
Yeah, that's a really big question. So Hathor was with me from the very beginning of my channeling journey. I didn't know she was going to be, she or they, you can use that interchangeably, was going to become such a significant part of my journey, but it really, really has. And a big part of it, and it's actually a perfect segue after talking about the word fluid and emphasizing the word fluid, because a part of the significance of the awakening of the divine feminine in today's world and also in people's personal lives is to be able to tap into flow states more easily, and in general, to embrace a more fluid existence, less emphasis on controlling situation, less emphasis on doing, more on being, less emphasis on thinking, more on feeling. And all of these are big, big, big concepts that are all relevant to the changes that are happening to humanity in terms of our consciousness growth, evolution, and expansion. And again, also in our everyday personal life. So one of the things that I learned through the channeling journey is that all these cycles, and we're talking about cycles for humanity, we're talking about changes in 2012. You can take all these very big conversations and make them very narrow, very specific, and see how they apply in your life, each and every person's life. So we talk about 2012 as a big year. What changes happened in your life in 2012? And a lot of people will realize that either parents or partners or close people transition to the other side, or they change vocations, profession, or location, they moved. And there are all these big, big life changes that are happening. And like I said, it happens to humanity, but also individually. And the awakening of the divine feminine, the rising of the divine feminine is integral in the specific changes that are happening to us and that are moving us into the next step for humanity.
There's a lot there.
And it's just the surface. We didn't even, there's so much more that we didn't even touch on in terms of what it means, the divine feminine.
Yeah. So when you started channeling, or when that you opened that up, was it Hathor that was coming through, or something else, someone else?
So when I channeled before Lisa's training, it was councils, the Council of Light that came through those
Oh.
few sessions. And then when I started the channeling with Lisa, the training, the first two entities to come through were Hathor, and before Hathor was Jesus. And both Hathor and Jesus were completely foreign to me. Jesus, because I grew up in Israel, so I really didn't have a good concept of Jesus.
Yeah.
And Hathor, I never heard the name before. So that was a complete, even Jesus came to me first with the ascended name, I believe Sananda.
Oh,
Or
really?
Ananda or Sananda, I think Sananda. And
Interesting.
so I actually didn't know who I was channeling. I thought it was some entity I was not familiar with. I didn't even know that was an ascended name of Jesus. So both Hathor and Jesus came to me. For me, it was kind of the back door because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know the names, but they repeatedly came through. And these were the first two connections. And Hathor stayed with me until now. She's the main source that I channel.
Okay. So Hathor. So then I guess, did they make the connection? Because that, I mean, that to me, that ties into Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Did that come through right away? Did you make that
Yes.
connection, or?
I did not make the connection, but the people that were asking the questions knew more than me. And that happened consistently at the beginning of my channeling, whether it was Hathor or Jesus, or even in the conversation with the earth. The first chapter is fire, and I channeled the consciousness of fire. I did not have any concept of what it means to channel the consciousness of fire. I don't think as Yaffe, I would have any idea what to ask. But lo and behold, the person I was meeting at that specific time to practice channeling with had a thing with fire and was all connected to fire and knew all the right questions and was super passionate about it. I had no idea. So what happened is that I didn't know, but the people that were asking the questions knew, and the answers were appropriate. But some of the answers were surprising. So the first time I ever channeled Hathor, that was introduced to me as a Egyptian goddess. I thought it was some weird warrior, male warrior by the name Hathor. And the person asking questions, one of the people immediately knew she was an Egyptian goddess and brought that into the conversation. But one of the first topic that she brought up was gold, as a frequency, as a color, but also the physical gold. And they were showing me inside all these gold statues and gold things, and we're talking about the gold frequency and how gold holds a frequency. So from the beginning, there was the connection to ancient Egypt and how things were used then, before me as Yaffe had any concept of the connection. Not to gold, which I never, not only I barely wear jewelry, I never liked before that wearing gold. I started wearing gold in the last few years, but before that, it was just not in my concept at all. She spoke about the connection to the star system Sirius. That was not in my, I had zero knowledge or even practical interest in galactic stuff or even in astrology. So these were completely new concepts to me that Hathor and others were introducing, opening my curiosity, expanding my mind, allowing me to be curious about things that before I thought were too woo-woo. And now I was getting bits and pieces. And then I'm finding out that I can find validations from other people. So slowly it was this journey of mind expanding into areas that before I did not relate to.
That's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Would Hathor like to come through?
Always.
Always? Okay. I'm trying to. Okay. I have heard you talk. It was just about your, I don't know if you call it an invocation, but just how you open up to that and how the invitation to come, but it's you had the insight like, well, we're always just right here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they say that a lot at first, especially at the beginning. They would say that again and again and again. And they would even say, we're saying it again and again because you're not really comprehending it. You're saying, yes, yes, you're always here, but you're not really, really getting it, that we are always here. And I think the realization, we were talking about a spectrum, that there are a spectrum of ourselves, right? It's like saying, oh, my right hand is here now. No, my right hand is always here. Even when I'm not looking at it, it's still here. So it's kind of the same, the idea that they're always here.
Well, would love to play with them if they would like to come through.
Sure. Now, would you like any light language or field tuning, or would you like to jump in straight to the questions? We can do that, whatever you prefer.
I would love light language and field. Is it field tuning or toning?
They call it tuning,
Okay,
field
field tuning.
tuning, which is a term that was introduced to me by Hathor, field tuning.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be beautiful.
Okay, excellent. Horeani Hekaratono Homareani Hiketariani Homariana Hekriana Rastiaha. Hakiranyatiras torohomania nirakatya Hekariano rastiania Huromahai Hakariani Huro. Greetings and blessings from our hearts.
Thank you for being here.
It is our pleasure to be here in this space. We will mention that to those who are sensitive to energy, the energies are still flowing, and you can continue with your eyes closed, allowing the energy to flow through you as you listen to our words.
The tones that just came through, what was the message behind them? It seemed to move me very much. Like there was a lot of energy and emotion behind it.
Yes, the specific light language field tuning or chant, however you'd like to call it, that we shared with you is an invitation to the Hathor temple space. So you may relate it to a physical temple, more than one temples that indeed existed in the ancient Egyptian time, but you could also relate to it as a sacred energetic location, either in the astral or beyond. And in that case, it's an inner space you can connect to, a frequency, if you will, that you may inhabit. So this was an invitation and introduction to that space that you and so many others are finding more and more familiar as you are awakening to a fuller spectrum of your beingness, of your identity. So to some, listening and feeling those sounds will serve to awaken full-on memories, what you may call past life or other existences in the physical, in ancient Egypt. Actual detailed memories. To others, it may awaken a spiritual knowing, wisdom, and insight that is being brought from that Egyptian space. And yet, to others, the sound will merely be familiar, awakening a state of expansion within themselves, maybe curiosity, maybe grounding, and hopefully heart openness, as it is an essential element of all sacred teachings.
it was very heartfelt and very noticeable. Um, there seems to be a power in frequency and vibration and sound. Was that a major part of the temple in Egypt with Hathor?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sound is one of the building blocks of creation. And humans were gifted, the beautiful human voice that is a vehicle of sound reproduction. The ranges of the human voice are able to manipulate physical reality in addition to the energetic world. So you have an element here of co-creation, an element of manifestation, and an element of magic, meaning the ability to manipulate physical matter, which is magic as you know it.
Yes. What if Hathor could tune into the energy of, this audience in this present moment? What message would be most helpful for people to hear, given this period of time as we awaken, remember, and evolve?
Yes. As you're awakening interest in Egypt, ancient Egypt, the pyramids of Egypt, and the shape of a pyramid in general, many of you have the desire to go to Egypt, to go to the physical location of Egypt. And for some of you, indeed, it is a recommended part of your journey of awakening. To some of you, it is absolutely beneficial, both for you and the environment, for you to be there in physical presence. However, for most of you, this physical journey is not necessary. You can connect to the wisdom, strength, and magic of those times, of those places, by connecting to them energetically and anchoring your beingness there, and then opening your mind to receive. By doing this, you are both anchoring your own energy in that location in space-time, and also opening an energetic portal to have information come through, both in frequency and also as actual detailed information. So just with your intention to resonate with that frequency, you can enhance your connection to that world and learn from it and through it, through your inner senses, and without having to go there physically.
And can we anchor by tuning into the sounds or visualization? How do we do that?
Yes, the sound, the visualization, these are all tools to aid you to reach a specific frequency. So, if you are doing it for the first time, absolutely use our sound, use visualizations of images that you know are related to that place time. However, once you're familiar with the frequency, as it is about the frequency, not about the way it looks, and in this case, not even about the way it sounds. So once you're familiar with that frequency, you can just connect directly to it. It doesn't mean that you cannot still have tools to aid the connection, but they're not mandatory, they're not necessary, they're just aids. So What you must do is learn to recognize that specific vibration, that specific frequency, and with your intention, align yourself with it.
Thank you. Um, Yaffe does a lot of work with helping people transform their lives, awaken and remember. A lot of people want to improve their lives or be a better version of themselves, and we just kind of want it to happen. What are some practical things, Hathor, that maybe we miss or we skip in that process that we can do every day to help better ourselves?
We know that in your previous discussion you mentioned meditation, what you call meditation, which is excellent. The only thing we will add to that is meditation is an umbrella term and includes so much within it. So meditation is not just meditation. There are different practices that you can do. In addition to this, we will say that humans are afflicted with a lot of self-doubt, with all kind of complex patterns, both emotional and cognitive and physiological. And we will say that at the same time of wanting to transcend those, to be clear, to be confident, to be quote unquote positive, at the same time of all these ambitions, motivations, aspirations, humans and each human individually must learn to accept themselves as they are. Those human afflictions of doubts, of insecurities, of fear, of anxiety are not mere burdens or punishments. They are tools for growth. They are a part of the system for a reason. Now, you may not understand the full picture as a human. You may not see the whole picture. You must still develop that trust, that knowing that everything, including you within that everything, is beautiful as it is. So now you have a paradox of wanting to change, wanting to grow, wanting to expand, and at the same time learning to accept yourself as you are, trust yourself as you are, love yourself as you are, and project those outwards.
Sounds like you're talking about a healthy dose of self-love and forgiveness.
Absolutely, those are very needed.
I would imagine those are, well, is that part of the wave of the divine feminine that is awakening or stirring and coming up more and more?
The divine feminine has come to aid this process.
In Hathor helping us right now and coming through, was that a soul contract or part of the karma or what? Or is it unity that has compelled you to help us at this time?
All of the above. So, us helping you is also us helping ourselves, you helping us, and you helping yourself. It is all happening at the same time. You may even see you and us as different versions of the same people. And us coming back to help exists at the same time as the understanding that we are always here, although different elements of our projection are available to your awareness at different given moments. So the answer is all of the above. The connection, the specific thread from Yaffe to Hathor, also the times you are all living as a much bigger agreement, and also the continuity, the oneness of humanity with all the other factions that are present today to be a part of this transition.
Well, thank you for your assistance.
It is our pleasure, our joy, and our love to be here and participate in this manner.
Hathor, Yafi said Hathor had a connection to Sirius. Are the Hathors Syrians, or is that just the star system that they originate from? And are they non-physical, or are they some physical?
So, once again, it is yes to everything.
Okay.
So, the collective formed its identity as a collective when it started as physical individuals in the Sirius star system, specifically Sirius B. So you may say in that way that we are Syrians. However, it is a very limited understanding of our essence. It is a part of it, but not the whole of it. Just like you do not identify the name of the hospital you were born at as your identity.
Yes. And the more that I learn, the more I realize there is so much I do not know.
That is a good thing.
Yes, it's ever expanding, which is always interesting. Um, what with Hathor, would you be able to kind of share how there is a lot of talk in the world about disclosure? I know that that word is not always maybe the best to describe humanity's evolution and consciousness. Perhaps it's more of a spiritual awakening. But how is that maybe going to play out in the next few years? Is there a timeline of disclosure happening, or what will that look like? Does it depend on us and our own opening of our hearts? What would you say to that?
So we take the form disclosure to specifically relate to your government and your authoritative figures coming out with information. And this process has already begun. You are right now in the midst of what you call disclosure. It is being revealed one step at a time, partially because there's so many layers of hidden secrets and knowledge. And also, so there are two parts. There is the parts of your government. There's so many secrets. There's so much that they do not want you as a population to discover, to find out, that they want to bury. Whether it's horrible things that they have done, that they perceive that way, they do not want to come out, but also the separation. There are groups that have knowledge and technology that are now disconnected from your government or even military understanding as a whole. So that complicates things and that makes it slow. On the other hand, you have the consciousness of humanity, and that is also being expanded one step at a time. And you can see the different factions in your society as more and more of you are awakening to this reality and accepting of this reality. It's becoming more and more from the world of niche, very specific people, very narrow niche of people with that interest, to more and more mainstream, more and more it will spread globally and become the accepted reality. So you have those two sides, the secretiveness of the government and the consciousness expansion of humanity. And these are two forces that you can even separate and see as they're happening, each on their own terms, each in their own speed, and they affect each other as they go. Now, in terms of timeline, as we mentioned, this is already happening. We saw disclosure as happening mainly over a span of 5 years. And we will say that this is the 5 years that it's happening in, and beyond disclosure, what's going to spread even more is people's personal experiences, both individually and in groups. So that side is going to lead to the next few levels of contact and expansion.
Well, it sounds exciting.
It is. We've been saying for years now that these are exciting, exciting times. There is a lot happening, a lot changing, which may make it seem chaotic, but at the same time, extremely exciting.
Now, as we progress in this awakening and this, with the divine feminine coming into greater balance with our timeline, will we? You said there was the dimensions were sort of fluid. There was a fluidity to things. Will we start to, see fairies, for example, like viola, like will these things start to come into our like visibility?
To the ones of you who choose that path, yes. It will not be automatic for everyone.
Okay.
It will
Is
become more and more available to those who choose it.
okay. Now is this like a shift or a splitting? Like Dolores Cannon talks about the new earth. Is that what does that look like?
From our perspective, the splitting is already happening, and what you're seeing around you are elements of the new world. People expect to experience a cut shift, a snap of a finger, and now everything transformed. This is not the way it happens. It's different elements in your environment align more and more with what we and others call the new earth. And this is already happening. So for the ones of you who are listening, if you look in your life, if you look around you, you will find beautiful nature scenes. You will find beautiful displays of love and connection with other people. It doesn't mean that there are no displays of the other side, but these specific displays are elements of the new earth becoming more and more solidified as the split, the probability you are choosing.
Mm. Would you say that you said a choosing, but I've heard, our external world reflects our inner world. So the more that we work on our inner world, and I guess it is a choice to see the beautiful things, but those will become more amplified, perhaps.
Yes, so you must choose to see the beautiful things by choosing to live an inner beautiful life.
Mm, yeah. Um, well,
And we
we
will
all have a
just
choice.
mention, yes, before we close the transmission, we will just mention here that having a beautiful life does not mean always being happy no matter what happens. This is not realistic. As a human, you're going to have different experiences, both external and emotional. And living beautiful inner life is learning to accept those different experiences and accept them with tenderness, accept them with grace. That is the mastery of living an inner beautiful life.
Ah, that's a beautiful way. It's a beautiful positive message to end on. Thank you.
You are most welcome. We appreciate this co creation. We appreciate this beautiful, loving, and grounded space that is needed today and is to be honored and celebrated.
Well, Hathor, thank you for sharing your light and love.
We thank you for doing the same, and we wish you a very happy day in your human existence.
Mm, thank you. How are you feeling?
Hot. Good.
Does it take a lot of energy to channel that
um,
or contain the
it,
energy?
yeah, I don't know if it takes a lot of energy. It does, but it doesn't take away my energy. I would say a lot of energy is involved in channeling their essence.
Mm. Hathor just has beautiful energy.
Yes, yes. And that's why I fell in love with the essence the first time I ever channeled them. So I told you that I accepted this male warrior type energy by the name Hathor, just what it sounded to me. And
Yeah.
from the first time I channeled them, I felt that softness and that love and that just beautiful energy. And I'm like, yes, from the
Yeah.
very first time, because I agree, they have such beautiful, loving energy. It's really a privilege to be in that space.
Yeah. It definitely, even just, receiving that, it feels that way as well. Yaffe, if someone feels called to be a channel, but doubts themselves, what guidance would you give them?
The first thing I would say, join my channeling class.
Yes, which
So,
I've just heard about. I'm
yeah,
gonna be joining you.
yes. So I teach channeling and also light language, which I see as a form of channeling. And in this class, we do some of the things that we mentioned here, right? So learning to enter the flow and maintaining the flow, staying in that state of flow. Learning to be a clear channel, not to be interrupted and distracted by everything else that's happening. Learning to not only now be a clear channel and not only enter the state of flow and maintain that state, now expressing it with your voice. So there's all these different elements of channeling. And of course, practice, practice, practice. Practicing is very, very important to become more and more familiar with how that flow feels, with how does it feel when you connect, how does it feel when you're in different depth of connection, and how do different connections feel as you learn to channel and express different essences. So all of that are different elements in how to become a channel and practice and becoming a better, clearer channel.
Yeah, thank you. And so I know you've just written the book Hathor. What would you like to say a few words about the book?
Yeah,
to the
so
audience?
Conversations with Hathor is perfect for people that are, one, curious about Hathor, because you do have them explaining about their own nature, about their reality, their interactions with humanity. Also, about their connection to humanity as the divine feminine. So if you feel called to nature, to expanding your mind and increasing a state of flow, if you're curious about channeling, so this book also captures the beginning of my journey and opening to channel and all the questions about trust and about insecurities and about different things that come up as you expand in that way. So anyone that's interested in these topics, I would definitely recommend diving into the book. It's available both as an audio, ebook, or physical book. So however you prefer to take in that information. For me, it has been a life-changing journey, and I'm hoping that more and more people will relate to it in a similar way.
It's a great book. There's a lot of wonderful messages in it. And also
Thank
in
you.
your first book, Conversations with the Earth, which I also highly recommend.
Thank
Um,
you.
you put out a lot of great things. And are you doing the Lemurian Life Expo coming up?
Yes, I am. So join us in August in Mount Shasta. It's going to be amazing. If you know Ruben Langdon, you know there's some amazing channelers there. He really only picks people that are high vibrational. So
Yeah.
the whole experience is amazing. We're going to do contact work actually on the mountain. I'm going to lead a workshop, a hypnosis. So people will get several chances actually to go into other lives as in different energy systems, in different bodies, on different planets, and remember those lives and get insights from those experiences. In addition, of course, to sharing Hathor channeling.
And I would imagine that the energy on Mount Shasta will help aid in all of that too.
Yes, yes, the energy there is beautiful.
Well, I will put links to your website into your book and our books and also the Lemurian Life Expo. Is there anything else you got going on?
Let's
You're
see.
you're busy.
I'm also doing past life regressions and different hypnosis groups on Zoom. In addition to, so that's kind of a good preparation for uh, Lemurian Life Expo.
Okay.
And I'm also teaching light language and channeling, as I said. Every Sunday, I share Hathor sacred sound and messages live on Zoom. So people, and I keep the prices extremely affordable. So a month worth of group meetings is $20. So it's a great, great way for people to join the energy, get to ask a question, or just to sit and feel and receive the energy. So that's what I do.
Yaffe, thank you so much for being here and being my guest. You've been wonderful. And
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
thank you so much for tuning in today and being with us. May you find joy, flow, and adventure on your journey. And if you got something from it, please like, share, and subscribe and or comment. It means a lot. Thank you.